What's up, guys? I kind of just wanted to, I guess, go over the past couple weeks. Kind of do a vlog. It's been a little while for that, like probably a few years, to be honest. But so a couple weeks back, I went ahead and decided to go ahead and subscribe to the Regal Unlimited service. Basically lets you see unlimited movies for just with some slight restrictions. It's priced based on location, what theater you go to, and you basically get the standard style of theater or movie viewing for as many movies as you want within a month for free after your initial 20 to 23 or 25, I think it is, somewhere in that range, dollar subscription fee. You do have to pay upcharges for specific movies, such as like if you, or not specific movies, but specific viewing styles. Like if you go to IMAX as an easy example, or something I did a couple weeks back called ScreenX, which I had never heard of, which is basically where you still get like it's like a smaller theater, and you have like the smaller regular screen in front of you, but then you have like projectors projecting on the side, like on the two walls beside you, so it's like a lot more immersive. And I feel like one day it'll be really great whenever there are movies that are filmed specifically for that, so that they can have it all the way through. I saw Spider-Man Far From Home in it, which it's a great movie. My impressions of it are a little tainted because I just saw Endgame like 3 days before or 2 days before or something like that, so I wasn't quite ready for it, to be honest. And it kind of, I feel like the ScreenX thing in that circumstance really detracted from it, just because I, to be honest, needed to be like fully engaged because I was still trying to kind of recuperate and understand what was happening after Endgame. I mean, I understand, but I was trying to like cope with what was going on at the end of Endgame. I won't say anything because I don't want to spoil it beyond what the internet has already done. But it was pretty heavy. Like, I don't think I've seen a movie that made me feel so many, like, a roller coaster of emotions and stuff like that. So Far From Home, seeing it 2 days later, made its impact a whole lot less to me, which I love Spider-Man, so it's like I kind of set myself up for failure there, which is disappointing. Also, certain things about Far From Home I could have predicted. Being a nerd and a comic book fan, I already kind of knew what was going to happen as soon as I saw the trailers and stuff. It's like, oh, well, this is obviously what's going to happen by the end of the movie. Now, certain stuff obviously was unpredictable or whatever. I'm not going to talk about it too much because, again, I'm not trying to spoil anything on any of the things I talk about too much today. But I felt like it was a little predictable as somebody who's a fan of the universe and comic books and stuff. But it was still a really good movie. But I feel like its impact for me was lessened by the fact that I just saw Endgame. Fast forward about a week, I decided that was great and all, but I need to keep this up if I want to get my full, 21 or however many dollars worth of movies in a month. So I'm trying to make sure I watch at least one movie per week just to make sure I get my, more than my value's worth out of it. Because a movie these days is about like $12 without food or drinks or anything, which the Regal Unlimited thing does give you discounts on the snacks. It's too bad they don't give you like a small popcorn and a small Coke or something, but I guess that would be like Movie Pass and just hemorrhaging money at every step of the way. But anyway, so to catch up, I last week went back to see another movie. I actually went to a different theater this time because, well, to be honest, it was just closer to work, so it just worked out better. But the theater I went to last week has the leather reclining seats, which I've never had in any movie going experience whatsoever. So when I sat down, it was just the most insane feeling I've ever had going into a movie. Just feeling so relaxed. Like, I felt like I could go to sleep. It was just strange, which I've never had an issue with in any movie. And I didn't, thankfully. But, so last week I went to see Aladdin, the remake or whatever you want to call it, with Will Smith as the genie, which had me absolutely terrified going in. I loved it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still think the original is better just because it's the original. I mean, it's hard for me, and I know I have friends that get on to me about this kind of thing all the time. Like with the Final Fantasy VII remake, I have my doubts and concerns, and my best friend is like, that's stupid. It's going to be a totally different game because it's a new game. It's a new era. It's a new generation or whatever. And so they can get away with making it super serious instead of having all these funny things. And I've thankfully been seeing articles that say that they're going to try to keep every aspect of that game in it. But that's not the point here. The point is I have a problem with dealing with change in like pop culture and media and stuff from how it's always been. When there was the whole big controversy about Captain America being a Hydra soldier in the comics, I was like, that doesn't make sense. I mean, granted, I wasn't as mad about it as a lot of people because I had already seen that the writer said something about, well, just give it time and the end of the story should kind of resolve the issues, which sounds like it did. But anyway, my point is, I saw Aladdin and I was terrified because it was going to be different. And I just didn't know how to feel about that. I thought, how could they replace Robin Williams? Which they didn't try to. And that's, I think, a big strength of the movie, is that while almost all of the dialogue and all of the songs were present, there was a lot of differences, which going in terrified me. Coming out of, I actually appreciated quite a bit. There was a lot of new like character development for some of the characters, which was strange. There were new characters that were actually pretty good. Different stuff happened with like how they presented the story. The story had like the same beats. It followed the same pattern, but there was new stuff injected into it that gave it a little more weightiness. Like, I feel like as a kid, we all loved Disney movies, but going back, if you're not just like in this crazy nostalgia music bubble, it's very easy to see that besides the animation and some of the songs, they don't have the best stories sometimes. I mean, they're usually rip-offs of other stories, and they're kind of just, paint by numbers. I mean, some of the newer ones are great, but the originals, like back in the day, like I guess it would have been like the 30s or even I think 20s was when Snow White was made. I can't really remember. All the way up to maybe like the 90s when Aladdin, Hercules started to kind of change things. But before that, all the classics, they kind of have like this very set patterny storyline. Like, they never really kind of deviate from, oh, well, this princess needs to be saved and she's going to sing a song about how she's like lonely or something. And then the prince saves the day out of nowhere, even though we have no reason to really care about this character. Like the old classic Disney movies, the prince that magically sweeps the princess off their feet is like usually only in the movie for like maybe 10-15 minutes tops. So it's just like I'm not saying that they should be in for more, because to be honest, I think that the newer trend of showing stronger women, and I'm not about that agenda life, but it just makes sense in this day and age. It's like you have to have more of a balance of stronger types of people in your movies, because that's the way the real world is right now. But my point is, it was interesting to see all these new aspects and sides and, I don't know, to certain characters that you wouldn't have guessed. So it was refreshing. As much as I was terrified going in, I felt great coming out of it. Like, all my doubts were taken away for the most part. I mean, again, it still isn't the same as the original, because the original hits hard on a nostalgia level and a childhood level. But as a story and as a movie, I honestly think that the new one might be a little bit more complete. So that was a fantastic experience. as stupid as the point is about the recliners, it totally dictated where I've decided to start going from now on for every time I go see a movie. So this week, I decided to go see another movie. Yesterday, I was going to try to see Toy Story 4. It didn't quite work out. Bought the tickets for my 55-cent convenience fee to buy it. And it just started storming its ass off. Like, I usually love driving in the rain. I just crank the music up so I can kind of focus and do my thing because I have all-weather tires. So I've never really had an issue with that. But even for me yesterday, I was like, I don't want to do this. It seems like it's riskier because I'm going to a heavily trafficked area where people don't normally drive that great anyway. Around here, all of the affluent, rich areas, people just tend to drive like as if they can throw their car away at any moment and buy another. So I tend to try to avoid those places normally, and in this kind of weather, I felt like it was more important that I just kind of wait it out, just go home, watch it another day. So today I went to go buy my ticket again or whatever, and the time didn't quite line up. I would have had to have gone, I think, at like 3:15, which I really wanted to stay at work until like 4 if possible, or at least 3:30-ish, just because my hours are kind of getting cut back some due to my new position. Not intentionally, it's harder to find stuff to do constantly when I'm not forced onto a certain job. Now it's like I have to find things for myself to do, which is great. And I have to ask managers, check in with people, stuff like that, to try to get ideas of what I can do to kind of make sure I'm always productive. Because sometimes I'm like really able to just knock stuff out quickly, and therefore I run out of stuff to do sometimes when it's slower around work, around like 2, and then I end up with like 6 hours a day, which just doesn't work for not even 6 hours sometimes, but like it just really doesn't work as far as making my paycheck by the end of the week, which is a big part of why I'm trying to hopefully build up my whole YouTube thing one day. But anyway, not to detract from my whole story, so I couldn't go to a movie yesterday, so I tried to go to one today. Couldn't go see Toy Story 4 because the time didn't line up right, so I'll probably end up going to see that Friday. I'm honestly a little nervous going into that, just because I think 3 was the perfect ending. I think that they could have dropped off right there, and I would have been perfectly fine with it. I mean, I haven't watched like any trailers for the most part, other than I think the original teaser or something that came out way back, or maybe even just a few months back. I don't really remember exactly because I have barely paid attention to it. Because for me, the original 3 makes sense. You're with Andy. He grows up, the toys kind of watch him grow, and at least for me, I was always the same age as Andy going in, so it was crazy. I was probably like 5 when the first one came out, which is about how old he is. I was 18 going to college the summer that movie 3 came out, where he was going to college, and I cried in the theater when I saw it. I mean, it was rough, because just seeing how his mom was taking it, I knew my mom was freaking out about me leaving home. And it hit hard. It didn't pull punches at all. So I'm kind of like, if that's how 3 was, and it was so impactful and hit at the right moment for me, it's like, how am I going to care about 4 when there's pretty much no way, and I don't know, maybe he's in it somehow, but there's pretty much no way Andy could be in it, which I know he's technically a like secondary character to the toys, but he is why they have emotional impact as characters. There's no denying that. So I kind of think that 4 is just going to be not great. I'm honestly going into it kind of on the ropes, I guess, or not all that enthusiastic, but I've got to see it. I mean, it's like, that's been one of my favorite Disney franchises of all time, by far. So I feel like it's something I got to do, is see that. Plus, with Regal Unlimited, you get these little bonuses if you see 3 of certain movies in like a month or so. Sometimes you get bonus points towards your rewards thing. Other times you actually apparently get digital copies of the movies, which is awesome. I wish I had gotten to see Men in Black International so I could watch Angry Birds 2, which I've never even seen Angry Birds 1, but just so I could get a free digital copy of Far From Home. That would have been awesome, but I missed out on that. Anyway, so I couldn't go see Toy Story 4, and I'm a little apprehensive going into it this weekend at some point. But today, I went to see The Lion King. I honestly had no real drive one way or the other to go see it. Like when I saw Aladdin, I was going to see it because it was in theaters and I felt like I had to get this movie service going, but also I had some serious doubts, like to the point that I expected it to be terrible, and I wanted it to be terrible at first just so it could be something to talk about, but in the end it was actually really good. So I went into The Lion King kind of mixed bag. Like I wasn't really excited or worried one way or the other. It just looked like it was gonna be The Lion King remade in this CGI, and unfortunately that's really all it was. I mean, it was nearly a shot-for-shot remake, the way that so many people complained about The Force Awakens when it came out, even though that's totally not a shot-for-shot remake. It's a new movie that has a lot of homages to Episode 4 because they're starting a new trilogy. It makes sense in that movie. And The Lion King is a remake, but after seeing Aladdin do new things with characters that work, that make sense, it was just really hard to kind of sit there and watch the exact same movie just in CGI. I think that the casting was fantastic. I mean, it was really amazing. A lot of the actors sound so similar to the older actors, yet I appreciate it more because I've watched a lot of the actors and actresses do things because they're a little more famous than the original cast, and they're a little more recent than the original cast, obviously. So yeah, the casting was phenomenal. The scene, like the visual aspects of it were really good. The music was pretty good. There were some things I didn't really like. Personally, I didn't like Be Prepared as much as the original, for a couple different reasons. I kind of thought that as messed up as it was, the Nazi hyenas in the original was actually kind of interesting. Like, as a kid, I never noticed it, but when I grew up, I was like, oh, that's crazy. And it just was a lot more subtle on the new one, and it kind of took away from it in a way, because it's like, yeah, I guess it makes more sense. It's more like an action movie now in a way. But that song, in my opinion, is one of the like high points of the original, and they kind of diminished it on this one. So it was kind of weird, and it was just really weird that just everything was basically the same. I expected, after going in from Aladdin, I kind of expected there to be little new scenes with characters, and there just really weren't. They took out some stuff, which was strange, but they didn't really add anything in its place. They just kind of tweaked it and made it slightly more boring, I feel like, with better actors in some cases. But it was just strange. And so that's, I guess, my overall movie review without trying to spoil anything. But yeah. So I just kind of wanted to cover the movies that I've seen in the past few weeks briefly. Gonna see Toy Story 4 this weekend. After that, I'm probably gonna try to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Crawl and a couple others. But for now, that's where we're at. So I kind of just wanted to recap, review, and do a mini like vlog type thing, I guess. But hopefully there will be more soon. Like, I'm thinking I could start doing reviews as like an alternate to gameplay stuff, because it can be a little more focused, a little less edited, a little rougher around the edges. So it'll be easier content to pump out, but I won't be sloppy about it. I mean, if I notice something in the recording, I'll definitely tweak it. But I just figured it could be something fun, something different that might draw different interests. Like, a lot of people don't really like gaming, so maybe movie reviews is where it's at for you, and I hope I can provide that as well. As somebody who's pretty much obsessed with pop culture, but has really been slacking on movie going and stuff. Like, I still need to watch all the John Wick movies. I know everybody's gonna hate that, but and stuff like that. There's other movies I missed in the past like decade that I really need to catch up on. But I'm hoping that this new service will get me out there and get me going to movies and stuff. And it's really interesting going on my own as somebody with severe social anxiety. So it's like a whole new, to not try to say this, a whole new world for me. A dazzling place I never knew. But it's something that's getting me out of the house, which is good, because I used to just come home and start playing games or watching TV, and that was it. And between making all these videos for you all and forcing myself to go out and watch movies just to do something different, I feel like I'm setting myself up to one day be in a better place emotionally and mentally. As I'll get into in a future video that I've already been planning for longer than I've been doing the gaming videos or anything like that, I deal with a lot of mental and emotional problems, to be honest, and I'll go into that at a future time, but I want to get better. I don't have insurance, as crazy as that sounds to say at this point in time, so I'm really having to kind of go at it myself and be stubborn about it and do things to force myself out of my comfort zones. And so this is this is, I guess, two of the ways that I'm trying to do that, and hopefully it'll work, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe one day I'll be able to have a much brighter appearance to my videos and stuff. Hopefully not fake. I don't want to be a PewDiePie or a Jacksepticeye or any of the people that are just like constantly yelling or grab fan bases from being just obnoxious. That's never my goal. My goal is to be real, reacting in a realistic way, and having a good time. I know things are a little dry lately, and I haven't been too happy about that, so it's kind of deterred me from putting out videos every day. So I'm trying to get to a point where I am comfortable enough editing to where I can make more jokes and stuff like that, to where one day I can hopefully play games with friends, because I know I will work better with other people around to kind of bounce ideas off of and jokes off of, just because that's the way it always goes when I'm hanging out with people. On my own, I'm pretty chill. With friends, I'm pretty chill, but after a certain point of hanging out with them, I just start cracking jokes and stuff like everybody else and having a good time. Once I'm kind of laid back in it, in a groove. So right now, things are a little slow, but hopefully we'll get to a, happier, funnier, faster pace eventually. But for now, this is just me talking about movies and life, and I don't know what the plans are, I guess. So for now, this is me signing off, and hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.